Hi, my name is Britt Gilman and I'm the Research Project Analyst at the Deep River Public Library. Since 2022, the Deep River Library and partners have been co-leading this local history project titled Not Born from a Virgin Forest, Deep River and Area's Earliest History. The title of this project is derived from early recorded accounts of Virginia Adams Hunt, who proposed that the area that we now call Deep River had housed families for decades prior to the arrival of the town, and therefore Deep River was not born from a virgin forest. This project was started in response to requests to expand understanding of life in our area prior to 1945. I'd like to thank our partners, the Schoolhouse Museum, the Laurentian Hills Library, Professor Stephanie Adams, Alex Stevens of Deep Tech, the Deep River District Community Foundation, and to the New Horizons for Seniors grant, who generously funded this project and made our work possible. The following oral history that you're about to watch is a subjective first-person account, an individual recording of life in the early days of Deep River and area. We hope that by asking questions and capturing responses, we're able to add these oral histories to our collection of historical accounts to expand understanding. Enjoy.
Who were your grandparents, and can you tell me about them?
My grandparents were Ben Adams Lucas, I guess, and Annie Jane Lemure. And my other grandfather was Alec Dole.
And they both lived close by, right?
Yeah, they both were within 300 yards of.
And then your parents?
Dave and Mary Adams.
And what's like the main thing that sticks out about them, like about your dad?
He was a trapper.
Okay.
And he wasn't always
home.
Well, no, he trapped in Quebec, where he shouldn't have been trapping.
Right.
So
shouldn't have been trapping?
Well, he lived in Ontario, and because it was close to Quebec, you just had to go a mile or two across the river,
yeah.
And it was easy.
Yeah.
But if you had to go to the park, then it's like 10 miles, eh?
Right.
And he didn't have a car, so he went. He
just zipped across.
Just went across the river.
Yeah.
And he didn't take his furs to North Bay. He sold them to Dave Herman, which was a fur trader in Chalk River. But he only got 2/3 of what he would have got in North Bay, because he had to make money too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it maybe would have saved him anyway from not having to travel, right?
Yeah. Because at that time the roads weren't real good, so you either had to go by train to North Bay. I don't know at that time if there was a bus going or not.
Right.
Because a lot of the highway from Ralston to North Bay was gravel, like in the 30s and 40s.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the easiest way to go. A lot of people travel by train.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Grandma was at home?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know, is there any story in terms of how they all came to the area, or where they, I know some of them we talked about were in Maniwaki or in Mattawa. Do you know sort of why they settled here?
This is only an idea, but my grandmother, Lemure, Annie Jane Lemure, and her family, they all the natives congregated at Fort William in the Quebec side, because there was a mission there. Every so often, they'd all come out of the park, all Algonquin Park, and they'd all go to this mission at Fort William, a Catholic mission. Come down Petawawa River from way on in Algonquin Park. And I think that's where, I'm only surmising this, but I think that's where my grandfather and grandmother met.
Okay.
Was over there. Because when they got married, and Ferguson's place or King's Farm, that's where they had their wedding party, was at Ferguson's barn.
Yeah.
Down there at or John King's place now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was 1892.
It made me wonder, because looking at like a lot of the census and stuff with the family tree, right? A lot of them are from different, like all around, but from different sections. So it made you wonder sort of how they did meet if travel was that challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's great.
Dad, why don't you tell the story you talked about earlier today about your dad's canoeing skills?
Yeah, he went. It was all canoe with him. Like he'd go across the river in a canoe, carry it wherever he went in the bush, because there's lakes there he had to cross too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyways, when he came out of the bush, of course he'd come across the river. He'd come. It doesn't matter if there's waves this high or what. He came across, no life jacket on her, because we never heard of life jackets back then, and he'd end up maybe 100 yards down the river from where he wanted to land because of the waves, and he'd be pretty revved up by the time he got to shore. But sometimes in the waves you wouldn't see him, eh?
No, it gets pretty rough.
Yeah, pretty rough out there.
Right, and I guess too, right? He'd have his furs and whatever else he was
Yeah,
with him, right? That would be the purpose of.
that's for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you'd need to be. Now, did he didn't cross it all in the winter, did he, or did he continue to cross?
Well, the thing in the wintertime, when you're trapping beaver, you have to break the dam. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
You have to break the beaver dam, so they'll come and fix it. So when you break the beaver dam, you set your trap in there.
Oh.
And then they come and fix it with sticks and and of course it grabs their leg.
Okay.
And they swim back to their house. But then you have the chain to a tree or to someplace so they can't go. So they fight against it and they drown. Eh?
Okay.
That's what they do. But in the wintertime, it's so hard to break the dam because it's all ice.
Yeah.
You got to chop and chop and chop, and it's really hard work. So usually from September until Christmas is a good time for trapping.
Yeah.
And a lot of times he'd go in, but the thing is too, when he went in, there wasn't a lot of places to stay. If you're staying in a lean-to with a fire in front of you, even it's pretty cold, eh? So it was all right in the fall.
Yeah.
It was great.
So would he be gone for some
Sometimes
time
a week.
Okay.
Sometimes a week.
That's a lot.
Yeah. He'd take, it was funny, I remember him taking a side of pork, like salted pork, and taking it in with him. And that's all he eat was fried pork and salted. Like you had to parboil it first and then fry it, get the salt out of it. And because there's no there's no way to keep it cold, so
Right.
pork is going to spoil pretty quick if you.
What was your childhood like growing up? It says Wiley Hamlet, so I'm going to assume that's down at the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for me it was great because there's berries all around that area. You could always go and my grandfather would come and get me, and we'd go picking berries. And like I was telling you earlier today about them blasting, and they had the tents down there after they had blasted and made the slides for the logs to go in the water.
Yeah.
Then they had the tents for the men to come in and eat. Like there was a cook there, and Grandpa knew the cook, and he was a friend of the cook. So when we were out picking berries, he'd shout at us, "Come on over and have something to eat." So it was the best food I ever eat.
Yeah.
I'd sit there and they were probably day-old pies or something, but they were brand new to me because apparently at that time you had to have fresh food all the time. So you couldn't. Pies couldn't be 3 days old or anything.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Any games or things that you guys played as kids?
Just ball, softball.
Yeah.
Barney Brindle, which was my uncle, he would whittle a bat out of the wood, and then he'd come and get us all, and we'd all have a game of scrub a couple of times a summer, because a lot of times he was gone working too. But when he got home, he'd do that. Like Dad and Uncle Henry, or Uncle Joe, they never did anything like that. They never played ball, but he was the guy that come over and play ball. He all had nicknames for everybody. So.
And did were you guys bare hand, or did you guys have gloves?
Oh no, it was bare hand.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything anything that you'd share in terms of your happiest childhood memories there?
I don't have any particular one.
Yeah.
I like it. It was. I have fond memories of that time. Mm-hmm. Like it seemed like it was always a good day because the water was right there and you could play in the water. Mm-hmm. And we had boom logs we could pull around the water. You know, even though it was cold or whatever, we could be out there. But I'm sure it wasn't great for Mom and Dad. It was survival is what it was, eh?
Yeah.
You know, like they never let on to us, but sometimes I'd go to Grandma's and if I knew it was around dinner time, I'd get some food there. And I have something at home and I'd go to Grandma's and get another one. Get another piece of bread with sugar on it or something.
Yeah. What about any of your hardest or worst memories or anything that sticks out? I mean, that's up to you to share. But
Oh, I suppose the worst part for me was when my grandfather passed away.
Do you remember how old you were?
1944, I was 5.5.
Wow. You must have been pretty close to.
Yeah, him and I were the best. Right.
Yeah.
How old was he?
77.
Okay.
That's a fairly good age, I would think, for back then. Eh?
Back then it was, yeah. But the funny thing happened with him. Jimmy and I were out raking the yard with Grandpa.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was blind. And she smoked a pipe. And did her apron take on fire. And we heard her shouting in the house, and she'd come out. And there was flame. Her apron was flaming. And Grandpa run from like maybe 50 feet and grabbed the wash dish where there was water in it, threw it on. But he took a heart attack right there. Like he was at the end of the bench just screaming in pain. But we didn't know what was going on. Jimmy and I didn't know what was happening to him. But he was pretty near passing out. He was so sore. But of course, he didn't go to the hospital. There's no way to get to the hospital.
No, not if it was all the way in Pembroke.
But anyways, after that, that had to be 1943 in the summertime. And then he got progressively worse. And January the 29th, 1944, he passed away. So.
In terms of before Deep River came to the town, did you guys refer to that area of what Deep River is, of anything, or it was just kind of home, or?
Yeah, it was just kind of home.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a name for it.
Yeah.
That we knew of. Like we knew the roads to go to school and the little shortcut up to Miss Fess Walker's and stuff like that. And we used to go up through the shortcut to the highway and then go to a little store up the road there, Harold Rush's store.
Yeah.
Do you know where that is?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's up. The building's still there.
Yeah.
But it's something else now.
Yeah.
But he's dead and gone a long time. But we used to go there, and of course we'd buy Dad's tobacco for him, and maybe get a candy bar or something.
Yeah.
But it was a long walk for me. It wasn't very big.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Even walking to Walker's would have been a long walk. I don't know that I'd let my kids walk that far now.
Yeah, but we wouldn't go alone. Like our older brothers were with us too. Eh?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't be alone. A lot of times I was alone in the bush because I took off by myself and exploring and stuff. I wasn't supposed to be out there.
And there was enough kids that who knew if one was missing.
Yeah, that's right. See, when Deep River came there, they were surveying, and they dug this trench from the shortcut down to where almost to where Moses or Maxime lived.
Okay.
Maxime lived. You know where that is?
Just from the map. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, when Dad and I were walking back from church, I seen that trench there, and I had been up the shortcut. And I said, "There's a trench up there." So, anyways, I walks up, and I walked down the trench to Maxime's, like just through the bush, and of course, I never thought about bears or anything. Nothing bothered me, but they're all shouting for me, wondering where I was. And then Dad come looking, so I got a whipping over that. So. Yeah.
Speaking of that, you guys never ran into any wildlife issues?
No, we actually didn't. We never were. You'd see moose swimming across the river the odd time, with the big rack and everything. But no, we never had any problems with bears at the river. But a lot of the times, the cows from the farms, they come through the fence and they're all over the place. And when we're walking back from school, there was always a bull around, ready to chase you. So, but Dad had come up with the dog then, and he'd just be. Then the cows were scared, of course, or the bulls were scared, then they wouldn't bother us. But
we were with the farm animals than wild animals.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. What was the house like when you guys were kids growing up inside?
The house?
I know right now from what the frame is.
Yeah, it was pretty cozy.
Bedrooms?
Hey?
Were there bedrooms upstairs?
No, it's just one room upstairs.
Okay.
One big room, and there's like 3 or 4 beds up there.
Okay.
Like George and Jimmy and I slept in one bed because we weren't very big.
Yeah.
Slept in one bed, and then I remember that, and then Bobby and I think Bobby was the baby at that time, and he slept with Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
And then the older girl slept in another bed or something. So that's how it was. And sometimes they stayed at Grandma's place because there was just Grandma and Grandpa.
Right, and they had a big house.
And they had a great big huge house, and they'd go over because they needed company too. They were getting up in age, so they needed company. So they'd go over there and stay there.
Very good. And then a big living room and open kitchen, or how was it?
At Grandpa's?
Or at your house?
Oh no, it was just a one room downstairs.
Okay.
It was just a one room, and the wood stove in one end of the house, and cooked on that, and the table, and there wasn't a whole lot of room in the place, but we didn't seem to bother us at all. No.
Probably outside most of the time.
Yeah.
What was school like? Did you like school? Were there a lot of kids that went? What do you remember about school?
Grade 1 was awful for me.
For any reason?
Yeah, the teacher didn't like me.
Oh.
There was a bit of segregation because there was only me and Jack Rathel in grade 1.
Okay.
And she never touched Jackie, but she pounded me. So no, I didn't like grade 1. I don't know how I got through grade 1. I was so frightened all the time.
Was it the same teacher that you had, or it must have changed if grade 1 was
grade 2 and grade 3, her daughter came to teach, and she was 100% different. Just the nicest person around. And I really excelled at school in grade 2 and 3 because I wasn't frightened.
Of course.
Wasn't frightened then.
Of course. Did your parents know that grade 1 was hard? Like, what was the...
I don't know if I never said anything, but I don't think George or Virginia said anything either, so they didn't know what was going on. So. And
was it, because I'm picturing kind of a one-room
school
together.
That was up by your dad's place.
Yeah. So
it was grade 1 to grade 8. I think there was 42 kids in that room, in that school.
And so you would have had siblings in the class with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was Jimmy.
Yeah.
And the Virginia and George.
Okay.
They were the ones. And I think George was in grade 7 when I started, and he was there 2 years, and then Virginia was probably grade 5 or grade 6 when I started grade 1.
Yeah.
So there's no kindergarten.
So you would have all at least walked together, gone home together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we walked from the cabin. We walked up the highway or down the highway to the Wiley Road, and the Gutzmans, Elsie, Dally, Rodney, and Edward. And they came from the other way. We all met and walked up to school together up that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
And even that for grade 1, that is such a far walk.
Yeah, it didn't seem to bother us too much back then, but even in the wintertime, we all did the same thing, so it didn't bother us too much in grade 1. And grade 2 and grade 3, of course, then you're used to it and it doesn't bother you.
after grade 2 and 3, any teachers that stick out, any subjects that stick out for you that you loved?
I was kind of good. It's funny, I can't draw today, but I was good at art when I was a kid. But I was also good at math and English or languages. I was terrible. That was my downfall because I was always getting in trouble over the languages. But I was good at math, fairly good at science and that stuff. But languages I wasn't great at.
Now, speaking of languages, did you guys speak English at home as kids? Or I know Grandma spoke Algonquin, but did she ever speak Algonquin at home?
Oh yeah, she did, but it was only two, so she didn't want us to know what they were talking about.
Oh, so she spoke it to the adults.
Yeah, she spoke to Dad.
Okay.
Or to Sis Reed that came in sometimes,
Yes.
or my grandmother.
Yeah.
They spoke Indian all the time, but at the time that we were always put down so much for being native that I didn't want anything to do with learning the language.
Yeah.
And the same with my brothers. So I wish I had learned it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you ever remember, like, Grandma or Grandpa accepting that or having a conversation with them about that? Like, did they not want you to learn the language?
They never bothered too much whether
Okay.
for us to learn or not, and because at that time they could speak French also.
Okay.
Because in the logging camps in Quebec, it was all French. So Dad knew French, and of course he spoke to Mom in French, and she learned it too. So they talk in French occasionally. But later on in years, then of course he didn't speak it, and they lost it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense then that language would be hard.
Yeah,
Because you heard all three at home probably.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the church, though, I remember you saying this today, the school was up on Wiley. The church was still on the highway.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So did you guys go to church on Sundays, or was it just special occasions? Or
Oh no, we always went Sundays.
It was Father McGalligan at that time.
Yes.
Any other priests that came during that time when you were a kid there?
There was other priests that came there. Father Lynch, Father Kajoka.
Oh.
Father Kajoka was a Polish priest, and he had been destined to go to the camps,
Oh, okay.
to the where all the Jews were killed. But they stamped a number on his wrist, and he showed it to me. But when they were going up the hill in the truck, it had slowed down, and he jumped off into a ditch and hid, and he escaped. And he got over to North America after that.
Wow.
And he was a priest here for a number of years.
Wow.
Yeah. Then he went to the Polish settlement in Barry's Bay or
Okay.
out in that area someplace.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And he was a parish priest there.
In terms of, I know Grandpa you said was a trapper. Were most of the men at that time in the family, were they hunting or doing something similar? Did any of them log or have any other jobs?
I don't recall that Mose Lemure or my Uncle Joe ever were in the bush to trap. I don't remember that. I don't remember. You're back and forth lots of times because it's not that far away, and I never seen them skinning anything or doing it or having any fur there.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure
What they did?
what they did.
Yeah.
I imagine they must have been. I know that when they had the ice bridge for the truckers to come across with the logs, they would plant a line of spruce trees across on the ice.
Yeah.
They would cut them, and it would be just as straight as an arrow, so that would break the snow, coming from the north,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't go across the road on the ice, wouldn't plug the road. So,
They drove across the river.
oh yeah,
Really?
yeah, with logs, yeah, on ice. 2 trucks went in. I seen them going in.
Did they come back? Did they come back?
Well, you know what they used to do? They'd come down off the mountain with the truck going full blast, and they'd have the driver's door open, and as soon as the ice started bunching up in front of them, the guy jumping, and the truck would go down. Yeah, but that was when it was cold in the winter, there was no problems.
No.
But when you get in March, you start to get the honeycomb ice and it looks black kind of thing. Then they would draw the horses would draw this big tank across with water and build the ice up and build until they could But then the truck started to go through, then they had to stop, because
Of course.
then the German prisoners would come out with the jammers. The jammers were these big tripods with the pulleys on the top,
Yeah.
and they would fish down and get a hold of the truck. They'd be sitting up like this with the front end up, because Dad and I went looking. I went and looked, and you could see it down in the water, because like there's this much ice right at the edge. So like it was good enough to hold us, but not a truck. Probably 50 people there, and 40 of them were German prisoners.
Oh my goodness.
And they would hook onto that truck, and like 2 or 3 teams of horses. They might have 2 or 3 jammers there, and they'd pull in the truck till they got it up, and maybe let the logs loose and get the truck up, and because the logs were there, you could pick the logs up after, but they weren't going to go anyplace. But that's how they get it up.
Well, and the interesting thing is so Shane for a while was doing that, was pulling logs out of the river. And I'm curious even because he would just find clumps of them.
Yeah.
And they would be stamped by like the loggers.
Oh, okay. That's probably where there were trucks dumped them, like because to get them out of the
Wow.
when they went through the ice.
So of the 8 families, did everyone, do you know, all of them got forced off? Did they all go similar directions? Do you know?
My Uncle Joe, he bought off your grandfather, Jimmy
Yeah.
Hogue, and he was the first one that bought the lot right in the corner
Okay.
of the Wiley Road there, and
Yes.
and Huey McFarland's. That field was Huey McFarland's.
Okay.
You know where the boundary road is? Is boundary road there? Well, that's right where Uncle Joe, and he cut trees down and built his own log cabin there.
Okay.
And then we got that farm up and farther up the Wiley Road. And there's a station there, a valve station,
Yep.
where the pipeline went through.
Yeah, pipeline.
And but the house was in quite a bit off the road, at maybe 200 or 300 yards off the road.
Okay.
And it was much like your grandfather's place, built much like that. It was the same size, and we didn't have the dormer windows on the roof.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it was quite a bit bigger place than we were used to at the river, and a lot harder to heat.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Do you remember that process in terms of, did somebody come to the house to say that they were taking that land? Was there a letter? Do you remember anything?
I remember Dad and Mom talking about it,
Okay.
but I remember them talking about it about 6 months before anything happened. But then, you know, then everybody's talking about it, kind of thing. But then you're kind of thinking, well, it ain't going to happen, or because nothing else had happened. But all of a sudden it did, and we had to move.
Okay.
And we moved in, I think, about the 20th of May or something. We moved
In the spring.
in the spring, yeah. Teresa, my sister, was born on the 9th of March, and she lived a short time at the river,
Okay.
only from March to May.
Yeah.
But she was the last one that,
I was born there.
there, like Tommy and Mary were born up in the Wiley Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the family having a really hard time with moving, or did Grandma and Grandpa, or were they kind of okay by the time it was time to go?
Oh, I think everybody was fine. They didn't want to leave the river,
No.
but
Who would?
yeah, but we had to go. So what did you do?
Okay.
And I didn't hear of too many problems, except Cesarine and Dave Peel. They were old at the time, eh? And Dave, he couldn't walk very far. He's a big man, and like he was in his 90s. So he like, I remember that we were getting needles for something or other, and had to go to Deep River to get needles at that time. And he walked down, and he's fine walking down, but coming back, like he's about 10 o'clock in the morning, still to 4 o'clock, he wasn't home yet. And he was sitting like up past the creek, we called it Hudson Hill,
Okay.
and Eddie Hogue picked him up and drove him the rest of the way home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he said when he got the needle, he felt better already. I think it was an x-ray is what he got. I think it was an x-ray for TV or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense around
Yeah,
that time.
yeah.
once other families started to move into town, were relationships easy? Were they okay? Was there any animosity between the original families there, or it was just okay?
What do you mean when?
Well, once the town started to develop and families were moving in for ACL.
Oh, no, we didn't get along.
No,
No, the highway people and the Deep River people never got along.
no.
Like, I was only at the school out at St. Mary's, like, the first day, and I was in a fight with a guy, and he started bawling his head off, and I got strapped in a new school. And, but anyways, that was the way it was.
It stayed that way a very long time. It was like that for my mom even, because she lived on the highway and didn't live in town.
Yeah.
And I know even for people, the way Deep River was built, I remember them saying, and you can still see the division of the way the houses were built, whether they were wharf for laborers versus the one end of town that was for the scientists.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So that segregation stayed a long time.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking of that today, you know. You talk about segregation, and, you know, there'll always be segregation, or like it's human nature, I guess. They're always saying, I'm better than you, and maybe you're better than somebody else, but I'm better than you. And on the religious lines too, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that still existed for sure.
But see, I went to, when I worked in Southern Ontario, I worked with Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
And different religions, and they're all good guys to me. And but I was a native Catholic in a Freemason society, and talk about the lowest rung on the ladder. Like, I was lower than a grasshopper's kneecap in those places.
Did you find, and I know the story in terms of when you guys decided to move, but you stayed in the area for quite some time.
Yep.
And because you had your kids here, correct?
Lyndon was born in Pembroke,
Right. Okay.
and Stephanie was born in Sarnia.
Okay.
When Vivian told me she was pregnant for Stephanie, I said, I got to get out of here. If I get another child, I'll be here the rest of my life. And I'm not making any money, and you know, I give it a chance to get apprenticeships at the plant, and I couldn't seem to ever get one. A couple of guys I went to school with never got one subject in grade 13. And I didn't get them all either, but I got 5 or 6. And they got the jobs. I never got the jobs. I wanted an instrument mechanic. And I was working in a printing shop in building 457. Mm-hmm. And just no money. But anyways, I was hoping to move on into instruments. And I passed the test on like 100%. Like Gord Powell, he was in. He said you did all right. You got all your answers on the test. But the way it was, Les Beamish was the personnel officer, and Morris Arbusay was my foreman, and then there was a guy that wanted me. Well, they wouldn't sign. And Annie Volras, she was the secretary. She said, "Did you get that guy down looking for you?" And I said, "No, I didn't know anything about it." And of course, after a while, I'm not showing up, and I don't know anything about it. Yeah. Of course, I don't get the job. They hire somebody else. So anyway, I finally just quit and headed down south, hoping to get a job. So,
and
which I did. Eh?
And you did.
Yeah, I did right away. Yeah.
Okay. Did you notice was there an immediate change when you were down in Sarnia in terms of just general acceptance and you could move up the ladder freely?
Oh, there's no problem. If you could do the job,
yeah, you could do the job.
You could move up.
Good.
And so when I worked in operations at Shell for 6 or 7 years, but like if you had to in operations, you had to get pumps ready for the millwrights to come and change the packing or whatever. You had to block it in, depressure it, and they get the piper, just put blanks in so it wouldn't leak. And then, well, some of the guys would say to me, do you know what you're doing? The older guys, like in the maintenance shop. And, of course, I was always a smart mouth guy. I'd say, of course, grandfather, can I help you? Do you want me to show you how to do the packing? And because I was saying grandfather because he's an old guy and he got his journeyman because he was there long enough.
Yeah.
They called it grandfather, eh?
Yes, to grandfather in.
Yeah. So I was just, I don't know if that's what happened, but I was kind of insulting them a little bit, giving them an answer back. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, when you left home, in terms of Deep River, were any of your siblings still here, or had they already left as well?
George was still here. George was still here, and Bobby.
Yeah.
And Jimmy was on the west, out in Saskatoon. No, he was in Revelstoke.
Okay.
He went to Revelstoke and worked out there. And he went out in 65.
Wow.
So, anyways, that's where he ended up. He never come back home again.
Yeah.
He visited maybe once in a while, but then George went out. He quit the hydro at NPD and went out and worked out there too. And that's where they both ended up. So, and Bobby, he stayed around. He worked at Atomic Energy for a while as a painter.
I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah.
I did know that. Yes,
Yeah.
I did know that.
Yeah, as a painter.
Yeah.
And then he left and went on his own for a bit and worked around the country.
Yeah.
Different jobs all over. Always painting, but just different places. So a lot of time in Niagara Falls. Of course, Teresa and Rodney stayed here,
Yeah.
and the older, Bea was in Toronto. My sister was in Toronto, and Virginia and Mike were here, and Bernice, of course, was here.
Stay here.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything else to add?
I guess that's about it as far as I can see. Yeah. It was an experience.
Yeah.
What was it like with 12 people in a small cabin? Well, you never had 12, but
No.
what was the most amount of people you had?
I think probably 5 children and 2 adults.
Okay. At any given time?
Yeah, at any given time there's 5. A lot of times the older girls would one of them or maybe 2 of them sometimes would go and stay with Grandma and Grandpa because they were all by themselves. Grandma was blind, and Grandpa was sick with a bad heart, so they would go over and help them out a little bit and sleep over there too.
Okay.
So it made a lot more room at our place.
Yeah. What was it like in the wintertime?
Pretty cold.
Yeah.
Pretty cold.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a big place, so it didn't take long to heat up when you got the wood stove going. But the funny thing was that I remember they would bring a hand sleigh of wood right in the house. Just open the door and drag the sleigh right in the house, and it'd be snow marks of the runners on the floor.
Yeah.
And they'd dump all the and take the sleigh out and sweep the snow up.
Yeah. Did you find that having lived there in that kind of cold has affected you the rest of your life? Like, does it?
I don't think so.
No. Like, I feel like you've always been, if the thought of anybody else being cold, you never liked. I didn't know if that's coming from having stayed in the cabin and being so cold.
It was the walks to and from school that were cold.
Okay.
But in the cabin, it was never cold.
No. When you went to bed at night, did you wear nightcaps in your head?
No.
No, you didn't
No.
have anything on your head? Okay, interesting. Because it must have been cold getting out of night clothes and into day clothes in the wintertime. Or it was fairly warm at that point.
Well, it was cold in your feet till you got down to the stove area,
Yeah.
and then you got your wool socks on, and then you're all right. So.
Okay, so you had wool socks, okay. Why was the cabin not expanded to accommodate the growing family?
I suppose they thought about it,
Yeah.
but how would they do it? Like How would they do it?
What was your mom's history? She had she came from where? Or is there anything you want to describe about your mom's history?
I think she came from where's that place in Sturgeon Falls?
Yeah, I know.
The
The reserve there.
the reserve there is Garden Village.
Garden Village, or yeah.
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 And I think she, at that time, she stayed up there with her sister.
Okay.
Her sister was up there. So a lot of times she stayed up there. And her mom and dad were staying at Burke's Beach.
Okay.
They called it Benner's at that time.
Okay. Banners.
Benner's or something.
Yeah.
Either North Star Beach or Burke's Beach.
Okay.
It was in that area. They stayed there. Because she would come down on the train.
Yeah.
And the train would slow up to its crawl at the Wiley Station, out at the Wiley Road there.
Mm-hmm.
Wiley Station, she'd throw her suitcase off and then she'd jump and run till she got her balance. And then she'd walk from there to, you know where Clara lives?
Mm-hmm.
You know that road that goes up there?
Yeah.
She'd walk up that road all the way to the highway.
Okay.
And then she'd walk up, and you know where
Yes.
Vivian's sister lived, Bede and Kent?
Yeah.
Well, there's a trail going down towards the river right in front of across from their place.
Okay.
And she'd go down there, and there was a big tree that she'd sit down and take a rest. And it was a big spruce. And Lloyd said, yeah, he remembers that tree. But this was like 1920. Mom was only 16, eh?
Yeah.
And she'd go down then, of course, and stay with her mom and dad for a while.
How old was she again when she passed away?
She was in her 92nd year.
Yeah. Okay. And she, it was kind of interesting that she passed away in a long-term care home in Deep River, facing the river.
That's right.
The very place she grew up,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah, I lived.
Grew up, lived for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know much about the cabin itself, with were the logs repurposed? Were they all cut down and shaped? Do you know much?
Well, they were squared. They were squared timber.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I see the marks. I used to see the marks of the broad axe on it.
Yeah.
So it had to be done with a broad axe and not a mill.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so there's lots of cutting there. Because the broad axes were big, eh? They were like that wide and heavy.
Why did some of the family use the surname Lucas?
It was just a choice.
The choice, yeah.
I think probably the right name was Lucas.
Is that right?
I think it was, yeah.
Okay, we can look at that. I said, how much money, if any, did the government give the family when the land was expropriated? $75.
I heard $75.
Maybe probably that. Okay. What were the pluses and minuses of living in a different house on the Wiley? So, what was the best part of being relocated to the Wiley Road?
Bigger house.
Bigger house?
It was a bigger house. Also harder to heat. But we had to have 2 stoves in there and lots more wood.
Yeah.
And there was a lot more room. One thing about it.
Okay.
And then Dad cut pulpwood in the spring for 2 or 3 weeks in the spring, and sold wherever he had to sell them. Like he cut two railroad cars of 21 cords in one car and 17 in the other.
Okay.
So we all worked and helped at that. Even when I was 10 years old, I was in the cars throwing wood up into the.
Okay.
Because I was small and I could put the up in the tight places in the.
Yeah.
Pack them in as much as we could.
What was the downside? Away from the river.
Yeah, away from the river, and I don't know if there's any downside to it. There was always animals going across, bears going across our fields, and deer going the other way, and which was good. But there's the bears that you're worried about.
You still feel pretty connected to the Ottawa River.
Yes, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. You know, all my life I lived across from Mount Martin. I was never up on the top of Mount Martin.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And is there trails and stuff?
There's a trail going up there.
Well, you should have told me. I'd love to do that hike with you.
Yeah, we should do it sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, Uncle Henry said him and Leo Walker, they were up on top of that, rolled a rock down
Is it right there?
towards the river, and it just kept on going and going. He said.
Yeah.
But they would have got in trouble if anybody had seen them doing it.
Yeah. I guess any comments on the change in the town? Do you have any? How do you feel about possible development along the waterfront?
Well, to me, I think change is good.
Yeah.
And, now that we're gone from the river, if they're going to make it more beautiful,
Yeah.
and then it should happen.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I mean, once you're gone, you can't go back, kind of thing, to the same
Yeah.
way it was
Yeah.
like 100 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I think with this new, I think it's a good thing. And it'd be nice to have our cabin included in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I have no bad feelings about ACL. It was actually a boon to this part of the country. Like, people worked there that didn't have a lot of education. They ended up with pensions, retirement and pensions after working there many years.
Yeah.
They'd have never had that because there was nothing here before. Like, I mean, we eat out a living from trapping and the logging jobs that they got once in a while. Like Barney Brindle tells a story about being over in the Cheyenne, or the Swaya, they called it.
Yeah.
The French called it the Swaya.
Yeah.
And they're rolling logs down to the Cheyenne River, where when the melt came, then they would go down to the Ottawa. Well, there wasn't much water in the Cheyenne, so the foreman told Barney, he said, take some dynamite and go up on the river. There's 3 beaver dams up there, blow them beaver dams up. And of course the water will come down. And then, so Barney goes up and he takes enough food for 3 days. Him and his buddy go up and they're back in 3 days. And the guy said, where's the water? And he said, it's so dry up there. He said, there's frogs 12 years old that don't know how to swim.